Thanks for checking in. It's Dr. Glenn, and I'm your helpful friend in Pennsylvania in the great United States of America. And I'm a security expert. I've owned an ISP company since 1993. I host hundreds of accounts. I can help you just as well as I can help everyone else. So let's get right into a basic overview of what WordPress looks like from your administrative web developer kind of view. And so what you see normally when you look at a WordPress is this dashboard, right? So you have a dashboard that looks something like this. You'll have a bunch of information here. I like to get rid of this kind of stuff. So if you go up here to the screen options and click on that, you can deactivate these, and that'll help you to sort of make sense of this panel. In any event, so you have your pages and your posts and you know all that stuff, where to put all your information. Then you have your plugins. But from a security point of view, this is where a lot of cool stuff happens. The most important of which is to have a firewall. I recommend the free version of WordFence. It seems to work very, very well. As you can see on this particular install, it's blocked some intrusion attempts all by itself. That's kind of wonderful. So definitely you're going to want to get that. However, let's go ahead and take a peek over here in your control panel area, and you're going to find a file manager in one place or another. Generally, you're going to have this. And so you're going to see all of the files that exist on your hosting account. And this is where a lot of the important work is done as far as securing your site against hackers and intrusion attempts and things like that. Obviously, some plugins can sort of bring you part of the way, but one thing you need to know about security plugins and WordPress plugins in general is that they're all written to exist in multiple server environments. And so they have to be a little bit generalized so that they work everywhere that they install them. But every server environment is different. Every server has different extensions and plugins and backend tools and software that's running that are specific to that particular server. That's why it's super important to get somebody like me to come in and do the security for you that understands all the different security environments that are available, and they can sort of intuitively know where WordPress security stops and where server security can patch the spots that are left over. In any event, let's just kind of look through some of this so that you can see what's going on inside of your WordPress install. So this is the public administration directory. This is generally the place where you're going to see your files. So if I open that up, I'm going to see a very typical looking backend. If you see a bunch of files in here that don't make any sense, they're like ben.php and asr.php and just very strange looking things, chances are pretty good that you've been hacked. In any event, there may or may not be some extra files in here when you come in to take a look. But if you see a bunch of extra stuff, open it up, take a look at it, and find out what it is. I'm going to post more information about all of this in other videos. So the includes directory has things that help you help your site work. So this is where some installs are for various widgets, and where your actual REST API is, where your mailer is if you have that installed, your cascading style sheets, and the like. So these are all assets that are inside of your file that need to be there. So you wouldn't want to just delete this, because then you're going to brick your account. But you would want to kind of take a look in here and see if there's anything that you don't recognize, and sort of scroll through. Once you've looked at 1,000 of these, you're going to recognize things that don't belong right away. But if you don't know what you're doing, definitely take a look and consider when was the last time that you updated your WordPress, right? When was the last time that you had anything happen in your WordPress? If you look over here at the last modified, and you see a bunch of files that have been modified recently, you might consider looking a little more carefully into your security, because if you didn't modify it, it shouldn't be modified unless it's like a log file or something like that. Anyway, that's what's in here. A bunch of information, certificates, various tools that make your WordPress run. And then if we go over here to the content directory, this is where the stuff is that you put in there, right? So there's an uploads directory, right? So if you are in your WordPress in this kind of area and you go to you add your posts and your pages, but then you also have things like your gallery and your where you upload your pictures and things like that. If you go into the like the media section, for example, and you upload something from in here, then that's going to end up in these directories, which is in your public HTML directory, and then in the uploads directory under the contents folder, right? So remember, we clicked on there and we clicked on contents. Let me go up one level so you can see there's that. And then there's the uploads, all right? The plugins, so in your journal or whatever you're doing, you're going to see the plugins directory. And these are the plugins that are installed or that you installed, right? And in the file manager where those actually are is in that plugins directory right there. And so one thing that I noticed with hacked sites, I don't mind giving you guys a few tips, okay? So in hacked sites, I can see there is a folder in here for each one of those plugins that are in here. So if you log in here and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you come over here and you look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're in good shape. But sometimes when I'm in the file side of things, I see plugins that exist in here that don't exist in here. They're hidden from the site administrator. That's a bad thing. So always make sure you double check that the plugins are what they are. And then when you're working on your website, you're going to want to make sure that these plugins are up to date. Always make sure your plugins are up to date. I fix hack sites almost every day. So I would say at least half of the time it's a plugin that caused the problem, got out of date, and somebody abused it. And they shouldn't even be able to see what you're running in your website, and they shouldn't be able to interact with it. That's what the security expert's supposed to stop, but they do. So if you're clumsy and you just do an install and you use plugins to you just install plugins and different plugins and more plugins to try to solve this problem or that problem, all of a sudden you're going to notice that you have a gazillion plugins, and every time you add a new one, the footprint for your sort of attack field gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The more plugins that you have, the more likely it is that you're going to be hacked. And so you want to keep the plugins down to as little as possible, and you want the plugins that you do have to be secret. Like Gandalf said, keep it secret, keep it safe, right? So you definitely want to keep all that stuff private. All right, so back over here, I see that there's, in this particular journal, there is a plugin that isn't deactivated. Why would you have it? If you have a plugin that you're not using, get rid of it, right? Shrink the attack window, shrink that real estate that can be encroached upon as much as possible. In this case, though, it's Lightspeed Cache. If you're using a web host that doesn't use Lightspeed, you are going in the wrong direction. Lightspeed increases the speed of your websites 10 times as fast, 20 times as fast. It's amazing. It's super stable. It does follow directives from Apache and the like. General LAMP stacks with Lightspeed on top. I'll try to not get too technical, but Lightspeed is amazing, and you shouldn't skimp on your hosting. That's the other thing. I see so many people get hacked by places that they host, because they host in a bad environment or a particularly vulnerable environment. I don't want to mention names because everybody has mistakes, and sometimes people fix their security loopholes. But I will tell you, as somebody that fixes WordPresses all the time, that some of the biggest hosting providers are the worst actors. They load their servers up, overload their servers, they have terrible customer support, and in order to please everybody, they keep the security really weak so that everybody can do what they want to do. and that means that you're very vulnerable. And they don't care. You know, they're not going to give you a refund because you got hacked. They're going to blame you and probably charge you to fix it, or give you a very minimal amount of support to fix it. All right, in any event, let's go back into the file manager area. So those are the plugins. Okay, remember we found that in the content directory. Now your themes, the same kind of deal. You want to have as few themes in here as you can get away with. I generally suggest having 2 themes. Since WordPress made some recent changes, your theme becomes corrupted, it'll roll back onto another one. This site uses Divi by Elegant Themes. It's a fantastic product. And then there's the 2021 theme, which I'm a big fan of. It's fast and it's always up to date. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful theme. So this is a great one to work in if you want to. All right, so let's go back over here and just remember, this is just a walkthrough, get some ideas of what things are. So the themes are there, the plugins are there. There's a few uploads in different directories. And then the admin directory, pretty self-explanatory, right? This is your administrative backend. That's this area where you do everything. That's all tied to here. You know, and incidentally, you can change this directory to a different address. It's a very popular thing for people to do. And if you do it, don't use a plugin to do it, because if you use a plugin to do it, then you have to keep that plugin up to date, and it makes that real estate that much bigger. And it's a very simple thing to do without a plugin. Same thing with your basic login page. Your login page is right here for your WordPress. So you go to WP-admin and it redirects you to your login page, right? And then you go out in the world and you are trying to figure out how to secure your website, and people say, oh, you got to change that login page. So you go and you grab a plugin, and it doesn't change your login page. What it really does is it redirects logins to another area, which doesn't stop a decent hacker from hacking into your login page. So what you really want to do is get rid of this page and rename it, or move it, back it up somewhere else, get it in a different area. The biggest complaint with that is that when you have moved your login area to a new secret login, which you can only do if you only have a couple of site administrators. If you have a huge giant company, it's going to be hard to lock it down that way. But in any event, once you log in from your computer at home or work or whatever, and then you go to log out, if you moved it manually, sometimes that log out requires a little bit of extra coding to make it work, or most people don't really care if they're not logged out if they're the administrator, but as long as they are on a secure connection and the like. However, that's just something to think about. Okay, so that's the basic. I don't want this video to get too long. I just want to help you understand that the things that you see in here, right, in your journal on the front end and back end, correlate to the files that are in your hosting account. So everything that's in here, every plugin and the like, it's all correlated to a file in this area that makes that particular function work. And then it seems very seamless on the front end because everything plays nicely, generally speaking. But you have to remember, WordPress in itself is an open source platform. Nothing's encrypted, everything's open code, so you can read everything, and developers can all decide how they're going to create plugins that people are going to use. So when you go to these plugins and you say, I'm going to put this dash notifier plugin into a website, that WordPress developer, the guy who made that particular plugin, is he named all the functions and he set all the variables and the like. And if he didn't use very specific phrases and labels that nobody else in the world used, then there's a good chance that his plugin will conflict with this one. If this one has a variable called yellow and this one has a variable called yellow, and they both get installed in the WordPress, they can sort of cancel each other out or just lock up the site or cause it to crash. And so when the more plugins that you have, the more chance there is that they're not going to be compatible to work together, that they're going to actually undermine your processes and cause things to crash. And also, the more that are there, the more attack window there is. All right. Another thing to think about is how people traverse the directories on your site. So it would be pretty, maybe in another video I'll show you, but I can go to a WordPress site, most of them, and I can list all of the plugins that they use because I know where they are and I can just put it in my browser and go look. So you want to lock those down. You want to use in an Apache environment. If you're a coder, you're going to use the htaccess files. There's security commands you can put in your PHP, INI files, and the like that will enhance the security of your site. And it all depends on which server environment that you're using. So using a professional is always the right way to go. In any event, I hope that you found something in here useful, that you enjoyed the walkthrough, and some of my other videos will have maybe a little bit more in-depth information, but just understand that's what you're doing. So if your website's been attacked and you're like, oh, what is all this stuff? Understand that you can only do so much on the plugin side of things. You can't fix all your problems over here. You need to secure the files that are in here. And the only way to do that effectively is to study and spend hours and hours and hours learning, or hire somebody to do it. And generally the time savings is worth it. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great time. Thank you for checking in with Dr. Glenn, and I'll make more videos very soon. Take care, everybody.